Hey, it's Trent from Marmalade Cream Media, and I'm back with another podcast tip of the week. This one's not really a tip, though. It's just me playing around with some new tools, or at least they're new to me. So, AI, it's on the tip of everyone's tongues nowadays. It's kind of the it thing, new AI driven tools. And I've used a couple actually so far. One of them that I've really enjoyed is this Acon Digital Deverberate, number 3. So I actually had the original Deverberate. Basically, this is a de-reverb plugin. So if you've got a track that's too echoey, too much room ambiance in it, you can slap this on a track and it just dries it right up. And I've used the first version of this, the Deverberate one, and I just never got along with it. I always seem to get better results using Isotope's RX de-reverb, and I still use that from time to time. But people kept telling me that the Deverberate number 3, the third version of this plugin that recently came out, I think 2022, maybe 21, it's fairly new, was much better. And they use a new algorithm, and supposedly it's AI driven, so it doesn't even need to like sample a piece of audio. You just throw it on a track, and it just does its thing. It just kind of adaptively, you know, whatever, just sprinkles some magic fairy dust on the track and pulls out the reverb, and it does a really good job. I mean, you can literally just slap it on a track that has too much echo on it, and I'll do this when I have a good example that comes up. I'll do a video specifically on this tool, and just with the default settings, most of the time, it sounds better. It sounds better, sounds drier, and the thing about it is there's fewer artifacts from the processing. That was always the problem with the first version of this plugin that I had. Is the artifacts that it would leave were just too squelchy and weird and kind of robot-like, and I just never felt like it was a good trade-off. Like, I'd rather just hear the echo than have all those artifacts. So there you go. So there's some great AI tools out there. I'm just dipping my toe in the water. I'm not cutting edge here, but there are some really great things out there. And I had a track come in today that was just a disaster. And the person, the host actually was like, "Hey, if it's not worth, if you can't save it, then we'll just re-record the show." And that's usually my preference, right? Is that if you can just re-record a bad recording, it's way better than trying to go to like enormous lengths to fix it later. But in this case, I thought, well, it sounded like it was a really good conversation, so I would like to save it if I could, because it's never the same when you have a conversation that you already had that was really good. It's never the same the second time, right? It's like it's like hearing a joke the second time. It doesn't hit. It doesn't hit the same way. So let me show you this track that came in, and basically this guest did not have their usual microphone that they use. So I guess this was just like the computer mic or something. I'm not exactly sure what the setup was, but it was not the usual one, and it was pretty bad. Here's what that sounds like.
Psychotic depression was a term used to describe people whose illness included melancholia, withdrawal.
Yeah, I mean, it's you can understand what the guy's saying, but it's hollow sounding. There's a lot of weird comb filtering going on. There's like this weird bloated low end. There's a lot of this very short, like early reflections. Like, it sounds like he was in a cubby, and it was like the mic was too far away, like deep in the cubby. Like, it was probably a laptop mic or something, if I had to guess. And for the webcam or whatever. And it's like all of this sound is bouncing around, and the walls or the surfaces are so close that everything is hitting just super early. So it's not even really like reverb or echo per se, like you would hear in a very live room, like a tiled room or something. It's like, even if it's even shorter than that, it's just like early reflections. And man, it would just be a bear to have to sit through a whole podcast that sounds like this. I'll give you another sample here.
Risk of dying due to not eating and not drinking. They didn't necessarily have first rank psychotic symptoms. It was more.
You get the idea. So, I played around with it. I'm like, well, maybe I can just remove some of that low end. Sometimes that just cleans things up. Maybe I can, make a couple of cuts here and there just to get rid of some resonances. But the thing is that there's so much there's so many competing and conflicting resonances going on here. There's not any really one move or 2 or 3 moves you can make to clean it up. So I said, well, let me try this tool from Adobe that I keep hearing about. And it's called, let's see, it's called Adobe Enhanced Speech. Now I'm already logged into, I had to create an account with Adobe, but I think if we go to the search results, it's like Adobe Enhanced Speech. Yeah, here's the landing page, it looks like. Okay, now I'm still logged in here, so it's just taking me to my landing page. But yeah, basically Adobe has this AI tool for cleaning up bad spoken word audio. And it's pretty easy. All you do is you take your file, you drop it in here. It has to be a WAV file or an MP3 or whatever. Now the source file here was a Zoom recording, right? So it came off Zoom, which means it's in video format or it's in a video kind of wrapper, M4A. So it didn't take that by default. So what I did is I simply took I just edited the name of the file from m.m4a to .mp3 because the underlying audio is the same. It's in MP3 format, even if it has that M4a file name on it. So I just changed the file name and then threw it in here, and it could read the file just fine. I also had quite a long file. It was over an hour. So I had to sign up for the premium version, which has a 30-day trial. So if you have the same situation, you can do that, and it's still free to just try it out for 30 days. And then, yeah, you just drop it in here, let it do its thing, and then you get this landing page when it's done. So here's the file name, and you can kind of play it here and just see what you think. And basically, you get a slider. The only control you get is the slider, which controls the strength of the processing. And by default, it was on like 90% strength. I tried that, and it sounded pretty good. And then I tried like, well, it's 75. I'm like, ooh, I like that better. Not quite as many artifacts, but it's still doing it's definitely cleaning things up. Then I tried it at 50, and I thought that was not enough. So what I did is I downloaded versions at each of those strength levels because, playing it through the player here, you can only start from the 0 point, and there's like a bunch of silence at the beginning of this file, so it didn't really help me very much. So what I did is I just set it 90, 75, and 50, and then I did downloads for each of those files. And then I've got them here in the DAW. So this is the active project. This is the finished project that I did, and you can see my 2 versions of the file here and here. So it's the same audio, just processed at 2 different strength levels. The bottom track here is 90%, and the one that I ended up going with is 75%. I didn't pull the 50% file into this project because I just didn't think it sounded very good. But all I wanted to do today is just to show you like what this thing did. So let me disable. I did some additional processing to this after it went through that Adobe AI tool. Let me disable that. So it's disabled now, and I'm going to play back to back the original versus the cleaned up version. So here's the original.
Activities of daily living. These were the people who essentially curled up.
Okay, and let's take a look at the enhanced version.
Activities of daily living. These were the people who essentially curled up, put to bed, and if they weren't actively treated, were at risk of dying due to not eating and not drinking.
Okay, so that's pretty crazy to me. Let me grab another section. Let's just go to another part of the podcast here and just see what else we got. It seemed to be pretty consistent, the bad audio. So again, here's original.
In broad population surveys, mostly again in Scandinavia.
Enhanced.
In broad population surveys, mostly again in Scandinavia, because they have.
I mean, I'm not going to say that the enhanced version sounds good, because it doesn't sound good, but it sounds very, very passable to me. I mean, it's so much more articulate and clear. You can hear you can hear the voice so much better because it has gotten rid of most of that weird comb filtery early reflection junk that was going on and making the original audio sound really distant. It's like you could turn it up, but it just sounds like it's really far away and hard to understand. And this just pulled everything up real close and makes it so much easier to understand. And it even seems to have like revoiced the whole thing, as in like as in like giving it a different timbre. So let's listen to the original again.
In broad population surveys, mostly again in Scandinavia, because they have.
Okay, it's kind of distant and hollow sounding.
In broad population surveys, mostly again in Scandinavia, because they have.
And this has like this depth that has this like bottom end, this kind of like big bloomy bottom end to it. That's it's kind of pleasant. Um, but yeah, so there's a huge improvement here. I was pretty impressed. I was pretty impressed. Like I said, it doesn't sound good. This is I would be unhappy if I recorded this, my personally. That would be a bad recording in my book, the enhanced version. But it is way better than where we started, and I think that it is totally passable for saving this really great conversation. And so then I thought like, well, let me see if I can just take it a little further, see if I can clean it up a little bit more. So I'll turn on that was the enhanced version without any processing on it. I'll play that again with none of my processing, and then I'll enable what I did to it to push it a little further.
In broad population surveys, mostly again in Scandinavia, because they have.
Okay.
In broad population surveys, mostly again in Scandinavia, because they have.
Yeah, so basically you can hear I just cleaned up the low end is what I did. So let me see here. It's just a couple of very basic moves. I have a high pass filter here at 120 hertz. So just cleaning up that big, like kind of bloomy low end I was talking about. And then I have another cut happening down here at 155 hertz. I have a bell-shaped cut of 3 dB. So, I just felt like that was just kind of this woompy, like kind of a little bit bloated sounding low end that I wanted to get rid of because, again, when you're going for clarity, that low end, if it's not real tight and controlled, it just is going to, especially on another speaker system that's not as accurate as what I have here in the studio, it's just going to make things sound more bloated, and you can't hear it as well. So I felt like this was cleaner. And then I have my leveling plugin that I always use, the Vocal Writer, on it, and that's it. That's it. I tried like boosting some high end or boosting some mid range and stuff, and I find like when you're working with really compromised audio, you really can't get away with boosting anything. You just have to cut. The only real move you can make that's going to work in most cases is just cutting the bad stuff. Cut the stuff that is getting in the way, the fat, and then let whatever's left of the audio come through, and try to do as little as possible, because once it's already in a compromised state, then you're not going to really be able to save anything or be able to make anything sound great with processing, but you can make it sound better. So yeah, there you go. There's the Adobe, what do they call this thing? Enhanced speech plugin or tool, whatever you call it. It's a web-based plugin. So yeah, if you've got a disaster of a recording that you really want to keep though, because there's great conversation, or maybe you have a guest and you wouldn't have a chance to rebook them for a while, or maybe not ever, then give it a try. It might be just the tool for you. Like I said, my initial impression, this is just one experience. I have not used this. This is the only time that I've used this tool. My general impression, if I had to guess, this tool is probably great for fixing disasters like I was talking about. It's probably not something you're going to want to use on a regular basis. There definitely are some uncanny valley sort of artifacts of the processing that I hear when you're listening over a long span of time. But so basically, in my mind, it's kind of like the first one was so bad, you can't really hear it very well. The second one, even if there is some artifacts from the processing, it's so much better. I'll take the artifacts any day. But I don't think you'd want to rely on this tool for like your day-to-day podcast processing because of those factors. So anyway, there you go. Enhanced speech. I don't know if that's a tip or not, but it's just what I'm dealing with day to day, and I thought it was cool and just wanted to share with you. So hope that helped. Catch you later.